So like I said, my name is Jesse Robertson. I'm a senior planner with Caltrans District 1, Transportation Planning. Tonight, we're here to talk about State Route 255. We're doing a corridor management plan, which will be accessible to the public online. And before we get started, I'd like to have Miles take care of some housekeeping for us.
Hey everyone, I'm Miles. I'm a public information officer for Caltrans. Thank you so much for being here today. We're looking at the future at 255. Just housekeeping stuff for us here in person. There is a bathroom through this kitchen. So that's where that is. And then, yeah, here's our presentation. I'm going to read a couple of slides off of it for our housekeeping. So the first thing I want to mention is that if you have questions, we're going to save those for after the presentation. Pretty standard for that. And then whenever we are asking questions later, we ask that people attending online use the raise hand feature in WebEx. And then in addition to that, whenever we're taking questions, we're going to go first taking questions from folks that are attending here in person. And then we'll take the questions from people that are online after that. And then we also want to mention that this meeting is being recorded and it's going to be available online later. And then I want to share our Title VI statement. It's that Caltrans ensures that no person in the state of California is excluded from participation in, denied the benefits of, or otherwise subjected to discrimination in Caltrans programs, policies, procedures, activities, and services on the grounds of race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability. And there's also some Title VI information as you walked in. There's some brochures there if you're interested in checking that out. And then the next slide is going to be a QR code. I don't know if you all are close enough in person to hold your phone up to this QR code, but if you're interested in participating in a non-mandatory survey that informs our Title VI efforts, it's really helpful. But again, it's not mandatory. So that should be on the next slide. And we'll leave that up for a little bit.
Thank you all for being here. Can everybody hear me in the back? Can everybody hear me online?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we're here tonight to talk about State Route 255. Caltrans is developing a corridor management plan that we hope to release sometime this early fall. And we are, oops, let me bump back here. So this corridor management plan is something that we do periodically. We like to update our long-range plans for each route about every 5 years. So this helps Caltrans stay current. With us tonight here, like I said, I'm Jesse Robertson. I work for Caltrans District 1 and System Planning. With me tonight is Megan Bruner in the back. She is our public engagement specialist. Online, we have Corey Reed, a public information officer. Also in our public information office, we have Miles Cochran. We have Mariah Miracle. And with me here is Jacob Reitner. Online, we also have a few other Caltrans folks from various offices. I notice a couple of other agency representatives here tonight. We have, I think Mike Wilson is in the back. We also, County Supervisor, we have Beth Burks with Humboldt County Association of Governments. Do we have other people from agencies represented here tonight? We have MCSD board member. Thanks for being here. So with that, and we do have Alex Walton, who will be one of our presenters. He's another system planner with Caltrans. He'll be joining us online. Oh, and I see Abby Strickland with the Coastal Commission is attending remotely. Thank you, Abby, for being here. So tonight we have a brief presentation. I know that there's a lot of people in Manila that have taken an interest in seeing some improvements to the route, that have been very engaged with us. We're going to take a step back. We're going to present for a kind of a more general audience, we'd like to include input that we receive from the city of Eureka, the city of Arcata, and other potential users of the route. So we're going to take a big picture look at all things State Route 255. We will provide some contact information at the very end where you can get a hold of us. But we do have some exercises that we would like to conduct after the presentation concludes, and during that feedback exercise, we will also take questions and answers. So corridor management plans are a new evolution in Caltrans planning. They are intended to guide the Caltrans project development process so that individual project teams will develop projects that are consistent with the route purpose and the level of anticipated maintenance. These plans are designed to look at a 20-year time horizon, but noting how long it can take to deliver a project, a state highway project. We also look beyond that 20-year horizon to also establish an ultimate concept, an ultimate vision for what we would like the facility to look like, how we would like it to operate. So this plan also establishes state and federal funding eligibility, and all of those factors help to inform the scope of Caltrans projects. So here we have an image of State Route 255. Hopefully you can all see that. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the beginning point in the city of Eureka. We have a segment 1, which includes the city of Eureka and the Samoa Bridges. Segment 2 begins at Navy Base Road, extends through Manila, and ends at about the city limits of Arcata. And segment 3 is the city of Arcata itself up to its terminus at the US 101 junction. So we have had a recommendation from the County of Humboldt to look at a separate segment just for the community of Manila. That would be something that we could consider for more traffic calming type improvements. So we would manage that slightly differently than the remainder of segment 2, the existing segment 2. So that's something that we will take back in our shop, and we'll release a draft plan, which will be provided, like I said, early this fall. Just to note that the route is relatively short from a state standpoint. It's less than 9 miles long, but it serves a pretty important local purpose. It provides access to the Samoa Peninsula, some of the open space and beaches out here. It also provides access to the port of Humboldt. Next slide. So we are here to listen. We have been creating plans for Manila. We funded a grant, a community-based transportation planning grant project here in the early 2000s. That was the Manila Community-Based Transportation Plan. We also conducted an engineered feasibility study at Caltrans. That's one of the sources of information. That feasibility study was completed in 2013. And 2017 was the last update. We called it a transportation concept report. These corridor management plans, they look at a couple of new policies and objectives that the states established to guide transportation investments. But in addition to those sources of information of background, we have also conducted a number of stakeholder interviews, and we've also got data, some public input that was received for the California Active Transportation Plan. That was a public engagement process. Those comments were received and recorded. So we have those that we're bringing in for consideration of this plan. And then tonight, we're going to have a little a survey and some maps that are able to be marked up, and we'll accept new input at this point as well. So we are aware from those various planning studies about the variety of needs that the community has for State Route 255. The highway itself was built decades ago to improve access to the port, and the community has changed quite a bit, but the route has not. We know that there's a desire for greater multimodal connectivity in both Arcata and Manila. We've been asked to recognize the desired development of the Great Redwood Trail along the Samoa Peninsula as a parallel facility to State Route 255. And we're also aware of some port development plans in Samoa and the potential for an increase in the amount of freight transported. The state has recently adopted new climate goals that call for greater climate resiliency with our planning, transportation planning. And while we're only beginning to study sea level rise vulnerabilities for State Route 255, we do recognize the importance of the route for providing redundancy in the travel network if travel should be disrupted elsewhere in Humboldt and Arcata Bay. So one of the purposes here tonight is finding a way to balance that growing list of priorities on a highway that was designed and built primarily for mobility, but recognizing funding limitations and environmental constraints. So this is where we are hoping you all can contribute. One approach to balancing priorities is to develop what I call as a layered transportation network. We might look at origin and destinations for different trip purposes using different modes of travel. Those paths of travel may take different routes than the existing state highway. So rather than modifying the highway to serve all travel modes with less than optimal facilities, we can consider other improvements within the corridor that are better suited to the trip purpose. So anyway, that is my definition of a layered network. And here on this image, you can see some of the considerations that would go into that layered network. It would include land use, transit, pedestrian facilities, bicycle facilities, and then the highway does seem to meet a lot of the vehicular and freight type needs. We throw out a lot of terms that probably sound like jargon to a lot of people, and some definitions may be in order. When we talk about multimodal networks and connectivity, when we talk about multimodal networks and connectivity, we are looking at the facilities that would serve bicyclists, that would serve pedestrians. There may be various transit facilities and first and last mile type improvements. We look at accessibility for people with disabilities. All of these different modes of travel, take different considerations, and we design specifically for those modes. And like I said, it can be difficult to try to design a facility that is optimal for every type of travel mode. So one multimodal network question that you might ask yourself when you're preparing to mark up our maps is, can I get where I want to go easily and safely in whatever mode that I choose to travel by? Does that make sense? Yeah, see some heads nodding. We can talk about this in question and answers if necessary. So another goal of the corridor management plans is to look at the state's climate action plan for transportation infrastructure. I think that is primarily designed to reduce tailpipe emissions, to limit the state's impact on global warming, climate change, and a lot of it is transitioning away from those greenhouse gas producing fuels, and there is an element of building more resilience into the transportation network and into the highway system itself. So there is some sea level rise type studies taking place for US 101 currently. Those studies really haven't been focused as much on State Route 255. Those are things that we anticipate being developed at some point in the future. This plan itself is digital, it's online, it draws from a variety of data sources. Alex Walton will talk a little bit about that here in a moment, but it's designed to incorporate new information as it's developed. So it's a little bit easier. We don't have to go out and republish. We don't have to do quite so many meetings, but are you guys able to see me? I'm getting some messages that maybe some of the video online isn't.
Just turn the camera and the pop-up box.
Is that better?
Yep.
There we go. Sorry about that. So anyway, so we do anticipate adding more planning efforts with regard to climate change here in the future as that information is developed. And then lastly, one of the other new emphasis areas that the state is promoting is a more equitable transportation system. The state recognizes the need to invest in underserved communities and equitably distribute benefits so that everyone has access to what they need to thrive. This slide gives you an illustration of what the difference between equity and equality. Equality, you can see everybody gets the same bicycle in the image. That doesn't necessarily serve people in wheelchairs, people of various sizes. Equity would strive to provide the type of facility that they need to get to where they're going. You can see a recumbent bicycle, you can see a child's bicycle, and an oversized bike. So that kind of gives you a little bit better of an idea about how the transportation network needs to be adapted to better serve all people. So next we have Alex Walton. He's a transportation planner with System Planning, as I mentioned. He's going to give a discussion about what the plan is actually going to look like using a geographic based mapping program. So Alex, do you want to take it from here?
Sure. Thank you, Jesse. Can everyone hear me okay? Seeing some head nods. Great. So Jesse's talked about the purpose and what the corridor plan is. I'll be getting into the actual platform that we use for making the plan and for sharing the plan. The electronic corridor management plan is shared through the Caltrans public-facing web-based geographic information system, or GIS. It is built on the ArcGIS Story Maps platform, which is a customizable website template that lets you create a scrolling website which incorporates text, tables, interactive maps. You can embed web pages and other multimedia content like videos. And it allows us to leverage dynamic information from authoritative sources such as map data from the US Census Bureau, NOAA, from Caltrans sources, which may be updated on a regular basis, not just once every 5 years, but maybe monthly. And so our users able to log in and see the most recent version of that data, such as it is put into the corridor plan. Next slide, please. So the way the corridor plan is laid out is the web page looks similar to this slide here, where we have a textual discussion off to the left, and we have an interactive map showing data supporting that text off to the right. Along the top of the page is a menu bar that allows users to jump to whatever topic that may be of most interest of them, that may be of most use to them. So the topics, some of the topics that are included in the plan include information and context about State Route 255's Caltrans and federal designations, key corridor issues, projects, stakeholders involved in the corridor planning process, future efforts, the history of the route, existing and planned bicycle, pedestrian, transit, and freight facilities, along with a number of other topics such as environmental considerations related to sensitive species and climate change and resilience. So the maps allow you to not only see what is discussed in the plan, but if you have interest in very specific areas on a route, you can get into very, very granular information about that. Next slide, please. Yeah, so on the interactive maps, we have an example here where the U.S. Census Bureau block data is shown by clicking on the map, by clicking on a block group, a census tract on the map. You're able to bring up a pop-up showing some population characteristics, ethnicity, number of households, that sort of information for that area. And this layer is put on the map. That's on the map here, comes directly from the U.S. Census Bureau. They maintain it, they keep it updated. So when planners are looking at getting information for planning a project, developing a project, they can go on here and they can look at their area of interest and see authoritative data that's produced by the agency or entity that actually manages that data. Next slide, please. We can also include other GIS libraries, other GIS resources, other websites, even in the corridor plan, in the story map. This allows us to leverage information that's being maintained by other agencies. We're not recreating this, not duplicating it, but we're simply providing a window in our plan with the context of the current corridor to show information from their online resources. So for example, here we have a slide on the land use along Route 255, and alongside that is a map that is taken directly from, this is not part of our WebGIS whatsoever, but this is the County of Humboldt WebGIS library that they maintain, and showing the land use information according to their general plan. So users of the plan can explore the county GIS data by clicking on the map. They can zoom in and out to find layers of interest. They can explore other layers that the county is sharing without having to go to the separate website, without having to lose that context of the corridor plan. And so this just helps us ensure that as the world changes, as different entities change what kind of information out there, when County of Humboldt has a new general plan update and they've updated land use information, users of the plan will see that right away. So the platform, the story map platform, allows users to scroll or click on topics in the menu. They can explore maps, tables, and text-based details about 255. And they can pull all of the GIS layers that we use in the plan for their own screening or analysis efforts. So if this is being leveraged by agency representatives or people, planners from outside of Caltrans, they can access this data and just get a good authoritative and current picture of what the route is and what is in the plan, and all of the information related to that. And at this point, I believe this is the last slide, so I'll hand this back to Jesse, and thank you everyone for listening.
So Alex has given this presentation a number of times, and it really is a pretty slick presentation when he has the GIS storyboard up. It's something that if you're looking at it on your phone, you just keep swiping up, new content becomes available, and it's pretty interactive. So it's helpful for Caltrans staff who are looking for data that they're going to be using to scope out their planning, their project plans. And I think from your perspectives, this planning process is a pivotal part where we want to make sure that the information that we're giving to our project engineers, that they are using information that we think the public is going to be supportive of. So, it really canvasses a lot of different sources of data, and because it's in draft right now, we just took a few snapshots of some of the mapping functions. The text we're still collecting input for, and we want to make sure that any text that we put out there is going to be well received. So anyway, thanks again, Alex, for that presentation. So we have a couple of exercises here where we'd like to encourage your participation. The first one is a little bit experimental, and we've been trying to tinker with it. We've had a few glitches here already tonight, so I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope that the first one kind of comes off okay. If that doesn't work, no problem. We have some analog measures, and as you see here on the screen, there is a QR code. If you have your phone, you can open up that link, and that'll take you to a survey, which also includes a map. So we'll get into that in a little bit here. But for right now, what I'd like to do is have Jacob here. He's kind of experimented with this. He's kind of pioneering this what we're calling a whiteboard exercise, where we can ask a couple of questions, and if you have your phones, hopefully you can provide some responses in real time, and we could look at that on the board. It helps us kind of read the room a little bit and get us to know what you all have as some of your personal preferences for what you think we should be considering here. So do you want to take over the controls here and get that whiteboard operation up and running? Yep. Oops. All right. So so you probably can't hear the instructions here in the room. That's not the whiteboard exercise. That's the next exercise. But yeah. So this, if you're logged into the meeting on your phone, I think that's where the whiteboard prompt where you'll be able to find the whiteboard prompt. I think I may have misspoken there. Yeah, I think it's through the WebEx meeting link. So, Alex, can you post that the meeting link again in the chat? I guess never mind. See if I can get the chat.
All right.
So how are we doing?
All right, and we have our whiteboard up and running, and this is for our this is to help facilitate interaction with our online participants. We know that you don't have access to some of our paper surveys and maps. So this is an opportunity to field questions to us or to discuss or to provide your own input on what you see as the issues, barriers, and as well as opportunities for your use of State Route 255.
Yeah, so I think to maybe simplify the instructions here, I think if we could get if you had one request that you would like to see improved with State Route 255, if there's one thing that you could change to make it better, what would that be? Try to keep the words relatively simple, and I think we should be able to gauge, what if there are comparisons that could be drawn, if there's kind of some themes that start emerging, but let's see. So, and for those of you in the room, if you do have some recommendations, you're not linked in, you could just shout them out and we could enter them manually ourselves. Is that working? Oh,
There is a map. Same need as a State Route 255 project avenue. Funny location.
is it a satellite image that you're looking at? It is, okay. Yeah, so that's kind of the next exercise that we're going to be looking at. I apologize, but yeah, we can talk about that. It is a lot of these questions came from our advanced planning unit. They're the ones who initiate projects, and we had some questions that they think might be useful for them in terms of looking at a complete streets project that they're trying to get funding for. So is there, yes, speed limits? Reduce speed limits.
.255 has multiple speed limits on it right now. And when it goes into Samoa, I don't know what speed limit it has there. Okay. I got it. I'm going to ask you several questions that other people are going to ask because I was first. Your speeds are set by what is whichever safest and reasonable. That's how speed limits are set on it. Is that when you come through a town, I'm calling Samoa a town, do you give more weight to pedestrians crossing? Do you give more weight to traffic that comes to intersections that cross or join either direction? Because it's difficult out there. Because 255, the drivers on 255 have the right of way. If you stick your nose out there to see, I'll take Lupin, for example. You have a crosswalk there now because there's a trail. You can sit at that, you can put your nose of your car or your body of that car at the farthest thing on the crosswalk, and you cannot see 50 feet of traffic coming south. So there's line of sight at intersections, which are not appropriately maintained throughout the year. You go out there today, take it looping. Traffic and engineering study. Did you do a new one for this plan or are you using the 2017?
The engineering and traffic surveys, those are not typically done for these corridor management plans. That would be a separate exercise, but yeah, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. You know, I do recognize that reduced speed limits, you know, I think that is a theme. You know, and I think that's one of the reasons why we'd like to look at creating another planning segment within the route so that we can look at ways to reduce traffic speeds. Because right now the highway, it doesn't have any stop control devices outside of Eureka or Arcata. There's you know, there's an intersection at New Navy Base Road, but you're right, the rest of the route is free flow speed. California basic speed law, I think it's all zone posted at 55 miles an hour outside of the cities. But you know, I do think we can hold some of these questions for the question and answer period. We were trying to do kind of a more collaborative planning effort.
Understood.
So I do appreciate.
Telling me that this plan will be created before they check what speed it should be.
Well, you know, yeah. So this is kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, and you know,
It's the weeds. You came here,
Mhm,
you put the garden here, we're looking at the weeds.
mhm.
I can wait for an answer for later, so this is.
That's fine. I think, you know, so the way a survey works is they measure the speeds of the prevailing traffic, and they determine that 85% of people are traveling at a reasonable speed. And that's where more or less, I think there's a few miles per hour difference between what they measure as that 85th percentile and what the speed limit can be set at. So I think they can round it up by a few miles per hour, maybe 5 miles per hour. The speed law has recently changed. I don't know what the new rules say exactly, but there's a little bit more discretion. Most of that discretion is given to cities and counties, but for state highways, you know, the range, you know, for discretion, you know, changing the speed limits is probably not going to make a difference. I think for bicycle and pedestrian facilities, we would want the speed limits quite a bit lower. And we are looking at things like roundabouts. I think we are looking to see if we can find funding for those types of improvements. Those are designed for very low speeds, generally 17 or 18 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour, say, in the circulatory roadway. So that would make intersection crossing much easier. You know, it would potentially make it easier for pedestrians to cross. You know, there would be separated lanes on the approaches, so you'd only have to cross one leg at a time of traffic. So those are kind of getting away from some of these exercises. So I'm going to take this opportunity and say there's the survey online. A lot of you have found it already through the QR code. You know, there's also some printout copies of the survey questions, and there's also a map that you can mark out. You can fill those out tonight and hand those in to us. The survey that's online is going to be available online for 2 weeks. So if you want to take this home and fill it out at home, you can do that. You could look at it on like a computer screen instead of on your phone. You could also forward it to your friends and associates. So that way you can get the word out, you know, beyond this group here. So there is additional opportunities for input. So feel free to participate in those ways. We also have a large scale map over here on this table, and that has some pink Post-it notes and some blue Post-it notes. You know, the blue ones I think we're looking at as opportunities. If you think there's an opportunity to make some positive changes, you can make those recommendations on the blue sticky notes and attach it to whatever location is appropriate on the map. The pink ones, you could say you could identify places where you have an issue with, the facility. So if there's a particular spot where you think this is where traffic calming is most important, you can mark up the map. You can even take a pen and mark right on the map. So there's no fouls if you do that either. So I think with all that kind of out there, I think let's just have a conversation, and you guys are welcome to ask questions. I think Miles may be walking around and sharing the microphone so the people online can hear. Did you want them to come up to the microphone?
Yeah, absolutely. Are we going to move over to the Q&A?
Let's do that. And I think the surveys are available. If we'll just ask right now if there's any questions about the surveys. Yes,
If I take a picture of the QR code, can I share that? And I'm very tech savvy, but.
Sure.
Share it. Maybe first.
Yeah, you can open up the link, and then there's oftentimes once you are online and looking at the website, you can share that web page. So
Yeah, the
So
question
absolutely.
was in regards to sharing the URL for the survey, and we highly recommend that you do that for those of you attending online and talking to people online. Please don't be shy to come up to this map while we're here. We're just all here. It's just a fun exercise. If you can think of anything and you want to put it on those Post-it notes, please do. And then, hey, Jacob, I was going to ask if maybe we want to take some questions from people online, if people are still participating in the survey. Take questions from anybody here. Does anybody want to hop on the mic and ask some questions? We're in survey mode. It's okay. It's totally okay. Okay, absolutely.
It appears to me that we're going to have a windmill farm coming and a fish farm coming there before anything happens on 255. So with the truck traffic that's going to come down there, and there's going to be a lot of it, I just see a lot more accidents if they don't do something about the calming somehow, or the speed somehow, before they have the first truck through the construction going by here. And that was-
thank you. Yeah.
Anybody else? Chickens.
Is that a hand? Yeah.
It's related to statement here about acceptable speeds, and you made a statement probably from some statistics that you collected about acceptable speeds, 85 percentile of acceptable speeds. And that's maybe a definition that Caltrans has as what an acceptable speed is. And I think what you're seeing here, and maybe I'm putting words in people's mouths, and that's probably not acceptable, but my position is I'm here to say that it's not acceptable to travel 55 through our community, or 65 as what we see. And so defining what is acceptable is really important, and that's what I'm here to do. And traffic calming is my main goal for our community. So traffic circles, engineering solutions, not behavioral solutions, those don't work. So we need to have a traffic circle, or the Hawk system that we've talked about may be a good idea. Getting bikes on the Great Redwood Trail, awesome idea. I'd love to do that. And if budget is a thing, as it always is, the Christie Ranch, whatever that road is that bears off to the north, that's a pretty short hop, skip, and a jump to provide immense improvements to safety. I'm not going to take my 12-year-old kid on a bike along 255, but if it was on the rail corridor, no problem. We'll get into the bottoms, no problem, all day long, every day, ride to Arcata. So those are the kind of things that we need to see. We need to change the definition of what an acceptable speed is. We need to look at climate solutions. Optimal transportation is not going to be internal combustion. Big rigs cruising through Manila, that's not cool. I mean, this is a community that's been divided for years and years, and we can't walk across the street in a safe fashion without getting run over. So really need Caltrans, really happy that you're here and taking comment from us, and whatever you can do to reunite the whole community. I'd like to be able to go Frisbee golfing without getting run over, and like to go to the store and support that business, and connect to the community park that's over there. And we just feel a little bit detached, like there's two Manilas. And I think if we can get a one Manila, man, what an improvement we would have.
Sure. No, I think you raised a lot of good points there. I think the County of Humboldt partnered with Caltrans to deliver a short segment of trail that was intended to go from Dean and Pacific up to I think Carlson, I want to say. That unfortunately, due to cost overruns, I think it ended up the trail was shortened to extend only to Lupin. We've had suggestions that extending that trail, that class 1 pathway would be a high priority to the community. I think it's a parallel to the Great Redwood Trail that uses the old train tracks. And those are the sorts of recommendations that we think would be useful. I think we hear a lot of these comments and we think what funding sources can we try to tap into to try to deliver these types of projects. And it kind of depends on what the legislature is currently trying to build. There's a lot of money right now for non-motorized improvements for bike trails and footpaths. So bike and ped facilities. It's something that I think we would highly recommend trying to add that connectivity and expand the local circulation system. We're trying to get funds to install roundabouts or pedestrian hybrid beacons, something that forces vehicles to slow down. And until we can build something like that, what other alternatives could we consider? So those are the types of issues that we're hoping to dig into tonight. I think you guys know Manila, I'm sure, very well. Maybe some of you know Arcata or other parts of the route, but those are the types of comments that if we say that seems like low-hanging fruit, we can those funds are relatively easy to get. It still takes a while to build them, but if the funding is there, that's one of the first steps in seeing some change. So thank you. Excellent points there. Yes.
One of the possibilities would be to use the former railroad tracks. And it's been my dream for 50 years that I could and have actually raised my children and ridden back and forth to at least Arcata.
Sure, and I don't know. One of the other sources that I didn't identify earlier was a Cal Poly Humboldt student project that was done by seniors that were getting ready to graduate, and they had looked at the feasibility of developing the Great Redwood Trail segment between Arcata and Manila. I'm not sure if it went as far down as Samoa. I think to me, it seemed like they were looking to get out, to some of the beaches here in Manila, maybe. And so that was another, I think that's another good plug. I think we'll probably reference it in this plan. And it did call for developing the Great Redwood Trail. They looked at a couple of different alternatives, some different alignments. That one, the right of way is there, so you don't have to purchase land. It's You have to get an encroachment permit maybe, but that one seems a little bit more plausible. Thank you. Yes.
Are there limits to like the distance between some of these deterrents that you're talking about? I mean, are we looking at one option for this community?
Well, we actually have two things that we're looking at now. We are looking at a crossing at Lupin. We're looking at something, potentially an interim improvement. We were looking at a crosswalk with potentially a pedestrian hybrid beacon out there, a hawk signal, which would stop traffic on 255. And there'd be some advanced warning signals. We're trying to see if that is something that we could deliver. There's a lot of details associated with that. So what that project might actually look like is hard to say, but we are also looking at a complete streets project that says that at the next available funding year, they've put in a request to develop at least one roundabout. So they don't have I don't know that they have a budget for that fiscally the next funding cycle. So whether or not that project gets selected at the statewide level, we'll just have to see, but it's something I think we could probably continue to pursue. So we are looking into some of those options. I know the Manila residents have been asking for these improvements for quite a while, and we realize that, and I think there are a number of people that are working to try to make something like this happen. But we have to compete with Los Angeles, we have to compete with the Bay Area, we'll take whatever we can get for the time being, and hopefully there's an improvement here for you.
And I guess,
So-
I'm not familiar with like how you would go about it, but to advocate for like a community benefit agreement from some of these larger industries coming onto the peninsula that might support either, an agreement of an alternative route where the preferences they go over the bridge, or a benefit agreement like they're contributing towards a fund that would help support some of the safety, and
Sure.
increase traffic.
Sure, that might be something that we would have to put in place with the county and maybe the Port Authority, but I think that those are good suggestions, and I do think even a small contribution might help provide a match if we could pursue a grant fund, a grant project. So I agree. How much money we could generate that way, I don't know, but sometimes even a little bit can get you in the door with some of these federal grant funding programs. So thank you. Do we have questions online?
We do not at this time. Brandon Larson, our Deputy Director of Planning, he's been giving some input. I shared the survey again from Alex, but as of right now, I don't think we have any hands up. Oh wait, I just see hand up. Elaine has hers up, sorry. Elaine, can you unmute yourself? I think you can.
Hi, I'm Elaine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dialing into the meeting from District 4, where they have a design to build a cantilever path off the west span of the Bay Bridge since 2018, which is 6 years ago. And, this community has been asking Caltrans since at least 2008 for a separated pathway across the Samoa bridges. And in the engineered feasibility study that was done in 2013, there was only one sort of material and design looked at before that idea was thrown away because it was too expensive. And because the manual survey at the time showed that not enough people were actually walking and biking over the bridge. So I'm wondering what this plan will do to address the whole Manila community feedback that we need a separated pathway over the bridges. And since budget seems to be what you're filtering these ideas through, what is Caltrans actually doing to look at feasible designs that don't cost $100 million and don't force competition with San Francisco and LA, but will serve this community to connect Eureka, the county seat, with this new industrial center?
Good question. Thank you. Yeah, I I do also recognize that the Samoa bridges, are a subject of interest as well, and they're fairly narrow. I think we had a project a few years ago to narrow the lanes so that we could widen the shoulders and make it a little bit more comfortable for bicycles and pedestrians. They're allowed to use that facility, but it's probably not people's preference to bicycle or walk across there. It's not one of those recreational rides, perhaps for a lot of people. So I do recall this question coming up when I don't know, it was probably when the engineered feasibility study was produced. I think it was also reconsidered at the 2017 Transportation Concept Report. At that time, there was a question, somebody from Manila asked about a specific technology that they thought was lightweight and that could be used to cantilever off of the side of the bridge. One of the issues is if you attach a new structure onto the bridge, it increases the weight, and the bridge support columns may not be designed for that extra weight. So we've looked at some other lightweight materials. Somebody had identified something specific. I don't know if it's carbon fiber or some sort of durable plastic, something like that. But it wasn't an approved material for that use by the state structural engineers. So at that point, it wasn't an option that we could fund. I think it might be time where we revisit that question and reach out to our structures office in Sacramento and see if there are new options. I think that's over time, they have new technologies that I'm sure they're testing, and it may not reach our ears, so I think we will have to do a little bit of outreach ourselves and explore that option. But I appreciate the question. Thank you. Yeah, Brett. Oh,
It's just, I'm having a hard time focusing on one particular thing because I'm very interested in all these ideas. I love that cantilever idea. And I would never feel comfortable crossing that bridge on foot or on bicycle. And so one thing we discussed was the Great Redwood Trail, which I think is a wonderful thing that our spur from Arcata out to the peninsula is a wonderful thing. And, I'm trying to attend a lot of meetings and figure out how the community can best support these ideas. But with regard to that trail, plus, that trail specifically, say, for instance, if we did the rails to trails or rails with trails through Manila and to Arcata, we still have to cross the highway. And so if we were to improve or expand the trail that exists on the west side of Highway 255 from Lupin to Carlson, maybe even just as far as the bridge or where the Redwood Trail could come across, we still have to figure out how to cross the highway. And I just want to also ditto everything Mario said about wanting our families to be able to cross. You know, he's on the other side. He wants to come to my side. I want to go to his side and go to the beach easily and comfortably. And so I think, you know, Danielle had a good point, like how this meeting is to gather comments and input from the community. How is that going to be corralled in any kind of action? And what more can we do to get our voices heard with regard to Caltrans? And is there any kind of funding that we could help, you know, push forward?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot of ideas in there. But yeah, these, you know, some of these ideas, you know, I think it's helpful to have these forums on a regular basis, just so we can continue that discussion, those dialogues. And there's a lot of staff turnover at Caltrans. So when somebody new comes into office, you know, you kind of have to, you know, bring them up to speed and, you know, present some of these issues with them. This plan, you know, is designed to help keep, you know, new staff, you know, in the loop in terms of what Manila or Arcata or Samoa or Eureka are trying to accomplish. So a large part of, you know, what we can deliver depends on, you know, what funding is available. You know, recently we've had a lot of funding for bicycle and pedestrian facility, that class 1 pathway from Lupin to Dean or Pacific, that was built with active transportation program funds. You know, I think there's a couple $100 million, if I'm not mistaken, every other year. Is that right, Beth? For active transportation, yeah, statewide. It was, I think last cycle, it might have been something like 500 million. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe comments for.
But you know, some of these programs, they have funding eligibility guidelines, so that, you know, these types of improvements are eligible for this funding program. And that's, you know, one of the things that we, you know, look to. I think, you know, we work in partnership with the Humboldt County Association of Governments. You know, they also help us to prioritize some of these projects that we work on. But, you know, I think certainly just because of the long-standing nature of the community here, the community's concerns, that you know, we I think we had a request probably about a year ago to initiate a crosswalk project. You know, those studies are underway currently. So, you know, we are actively looking to design, you know, here's the scope of the project. Here's the funding thresholds that we have to work within, and find something. We could put in a crosswalk, but I don't think that's gonna make anybody, you know, feel better about, you know, crossing a street with the speeds that you see on 255. So you know, so realizing that some traffic calming is desired, I think that is you know, that's forefront in our mind. That's not necessarily, you know, that's a bigger challenge for us to try to deliver a project on a high-speed facility than it would be to put in a parallel route. But you know, at some point, people are going to need to get across the highway. So you know, so that there's you know, there's you know, that essential piece that we need to try to figure out, and a lot of that is based on funding. So you know, it is something that we're looking into. You know, we have some place marks for certain funding sources. You know, maybe that's not as satisfying as, you know, we you know, here's how much money we have. We'll see what we can do with it. But you know, we think it's a step in the right direction. Yes.
Yeah. Really appreciate this dialogue. I think that, you know, a couple of thoughts that I have, maybe they're questions, maybe more so comments. I mean, I guess one thing is that I'd really like to see ways of getting feedback and that help inform priorities of the community. I think that a lot of those questions in the survey, we're starting to get at that. I think I'd also like to challenge us as a community to think about what we're prioritizing. I feel like when these conversations, so many options are out there. It could be the trail from here to Arcata, or the bridge, or, you know, cantilevering something off of the bridges, or it's crossing the highway. You know, I mean, I think in my experience and what I hear from the community, you know, the primary concerns are, and, you know, maybe more in my personal opinion, priorities are like to be able to cross 255 safely, and traffic calming measures. Like those are very much priorities before we start talking about Great Redwood Trail Agency and other things that connect us to other communities. And kind of to echo what Mario said, it's connecting this community so that people can safely get across. I guess I'd also like to highlight, and, you know, Mario kind of spoke to this, but there's always those comments about when we're doing traffic studies, like, well, I guess I wonder, are we asking the right questions, right, that dictate where the funding goes? So one of the comments that came up about, you know, not enough folks crossing the bridge to justify the use of that. Well, nobody's using it because it's not safe and they're not comfortable using it. So are we asking the right question, you know? And then also, you know, I do understand, you know, the traffic analysis of speeds, and when you're looking at it and, you know, you're voting by your foot, right? Like by how you drive and what dictates, or the width of the highway, you know, for what's a safe speed or what's an acceptable speed. So, you know, echoing that, but are we asking the right questions to inform what the priorities are and what the options are to make this a safe entity? But I think, yeah, just to sum that up, I think I'd really like to see some sort of prioritization, and asking those right questions to get the right priorities for this community. And that's, you know, asking the right questions for Caltrans, and then also us as a community really thinking about, like, what, if there was one thing that we could have, what would that be, so that we can kind of not just have a spattering of tons of projects that never happen, and, you know, maybe one good project that really does work.
Thank you. I couldn't have had a better plant there. But we, you know, one of the exercises we were hoping to, you know, one of the things we were hoping to uncover through some of these, you know, feedback exercises was to look at, you know, connection points in the community. You know, where, you know, if we run into an issue, we don't have the funding to build a roundabout here. You know, what if we put in a pedestrian hybrid beacon at this other location, right? You know, what other pieces of bike or pedestrian network is needed to help those crossings, you know, get delivered, get built. So. You know, so we were hoping that, you know, through some of these map exercises, you can say, here's the route that I would take. You know, this is the beach that I want to go to. Here's the places in Manila that people want to get to. You know, maybe, you know, I think that there's trailheads at this community center. I think that there's the Malil Dunes. You know, maybe that's where people from Arcata would like to access. You know, maybe they want to get to the Frisbee, the disc golf course, right? So, you know, where are those places that you know, with some priorities in terms of, you know, here's the corridors that would be most valuable to try to develop. You know, that might help us identify, you know, some low hanging fruit, and I think, I think, you know, we've identified Lupin, we've identified Dean and Pacific. You know, that 2005 plan for Manila, it looked at roundabouts at that location. You know, we build roundabouts that cost about $6 million, you know, $5 to $6 million. And, you know, to try to get those types of funds to get 2 roundabouts built for a community in this size, you know, that's been one of our challenges. You know, that kind of funding, you know, is not really just laying around. It's something that we have to compete for. So, you know, there might be, like a corridor wide look that we need to take that says, here's the range improvements that we would consider like maybe not ideal, but equivalent perhaps to here's our ultimate concept. I think this plan is going to say, ultimately this is what we want, right? But I think it can be a lot broader than that. I think we don't need to fixate on these locations alone, because if you live on Peninsula Drive, west of 255, you can get up to Lupin, but how do you get, if you want to go to Malil Dunes, how do you get there, right? Do you have to cross the highway? Do you have to travel out of direction? Those are other things that it would be helpful for us to know. So, where do you want to go? Where are the high value targets, and what else could we look at? What else could we consider? And that way it would create like better transportation throughout the community as well. So some of that stuff isn't necessarily going to be on the state highway system, but like I said, we could partner. We'd be happy I'd be happy to cooperate with the Great Redwood Trail, County of Humboldt, other agencies to try to move these types of projects forward. Was there another?
As far as the status of the population. I think Chris, you've identified stupid, but when I think about the area I live in, I think of the Stanford. The other thing that I don't know this gentleman's name mentioned, when you cross on Lupin, you're crossing at an angle in which, especially when you're going westbound, you cannot see the southbound traffic. And it's such a day, I have almost killed my family. So I'm just saying, I don't know if you checked on densities in the community and where there's most likely going to be the need for crossing the highway. I mean, that's the only store in town.
Sure. Yeah.
And so people tend to want to walk there most of the time. At least that's what I see for traffic, walking traffic on Lupin.
Sure. Yeah. And if we had the draft plan in a state where we could have shared it, we would have highlighted all these different data sources that we look at. We are looking at the county land use. They have an online GIS land use map that might answer some of those questions. Sure. Sure.
The corridor around
Yeah.
Peninsula, just mostly housing on either side of the that old highway. Just was wondering if that was anything that was a consideration.
Well, we, like I said, that the plan itself has the U.S. Census data in it, so it does look at population densities. We look at county land uses. How are the properties zoned? And I think that's one of the things we look at. We used to have a Safe Routes to School program where you looked at, bike and ped corridors to and from the schools. So, there's a lot of different sources that we draw from. It would have been nice if we could, have greater representation of what's going to be included in the plan, but we're going to share a link to the plan. So once we have a draft prepared, we're going to, for all of those of you that have signed in, if you leave your contact information, we can email you a link to the plan once it's in draft form. So you'll get another chance to take a look at it. So there's going to be another opportunity for input, and we'd encourage you to stay involved. Yes.
Plan, explain it to us.
We definitely can consider that. We did have a stakeholder outreach meeting to the Manila Moves Group. I think they've been pretty reliable in terms of their, commitment to the community and to try to pursue the improvements that have been on the books for quite some time. So, so we do have some dialogue with them. They're a great forum. There's other sources of input. We hadn't proposed to do a second round of meetings. We thought that, the plan itself may provide that opportunity, but we can consider it.
Have to do an environmental impact report for that plan?
We do not. No, this is, if you think about the Caltrans project development process, this would be step one, just identifying projects, right? Identifying project needs, what are the needs? Step 4 is securing funding. Step 6 is, and these are all generalized, but step 6 would be doing the environmental studies. So those would be down the road some ways. And that, all of these steps, that's one of the reasons why it does take a while to deliver a lot of projects. So anyway, I would like to call our attention to the time. It's just about 7 o'clock here. And I don't know if there's any burning questions before we go. We could take one, maybe two more questions, and then we should probably wrap things up here.
When you pull into Arcata from the south or from the small bridge, it has 55 miles an hour. Then it's like, why can't it just be 45 all the way through? I mean, it goes, and even from the north, you go 55, then, 300 yards, it's 45. Why not just put a 45 up there with the flashing light that says slow down? And if the roundabouts aren't going to be able to do it, why not the flashing lights like they have in Arcata or by schools that you can push the button? And we were on a trip and they actually had flags where you could take a flag to cross a road so that everybody is visible, bright orange flag or yellow flag, and then put it on the opposite side. I mean, even that would improve. I mean, my best friend lives across the highway and we walk all the time. So one of us is constantly running across the highway to get to the other, to walk. So because the path is small, it's not enough of a walk. So.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think those are things that we are looking at. How do you we have to put out advanced warning signs for a pedestrian hybrid beacon, for example, so that people they have advanced notice so they have the time to brake and slow down in time, to stop in front of the crosswalk. So I think safety is one of our is probably our primary goal, right? We want to deliver something that's safe for the community. We don't want to put something out there that is going to put pedestrian in harm's way. So that's why we do take this stuff very seriously, and we make sure that we build it right. We don't want to make any mistakes. So anyway, we are at 7 o'clock. I do want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Like I said, this event has been recorded, so hopefully the sound picked all of your comments up. We do have surveys that can be filled out still. You can turn those into us, and the link online to submit the online survey and map feedback is going to be open for 2 weeks. Do we have a deadline when that survey is going to go offline?
That might, Alex might know that.
Oh, I think he signed off. Okay. I would say 2 weeks. I'm gonna, we have our contact information on probably the last page of the presentation. I don't know if you can see it here, but there we go. So that's not very easy to see, but
we also took their information at sign in too.
Okay,
There's
great.
going to be an email that comes out, right?
So we have your contact information. We'll send everyone who attends, we'll send them a link to the plan. So thank you. Thank you, Miles.
Yeah, no
Thanks for
problem.
everybody who helped put this event together. And thank you to the Manila Community Services or the Manila Community Center for letting us have this public meeting here. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jesse.